please work. How am I going to control this? Holy I've not thought this through.
Before we get into it, this is Building a Dream. I'm Jasmine and I bought this untouched land with the goal to build my own off-grid container house and homestead with no experience.
It's been such a busy year already.
I had to wait 8 months for building approval, but I didn't let that time go to waste. So I installed 400 metres of rural fencing, I made a firewood shelter to keep my firewood dry, I enhanced a massive dam, and I renovated a caravan as well as starting on a second one. This is part 3 in my foundation series, so if you missed part 1 and part 2, you can find them in my foundation playlist. So now I'm up to doing the rebar and formwork.
At one point I honestly didn't think I was going to make it here, but the day has finally come. I've got through the dark tunnel of digging and I can see the rebar light at the end. It's rebar day, thank God. I've measured everything to size, need to get it cut to size. Let me explain my foundations. I'm having 16 footings, I need 16 rebar towers to make. But I also have a slope on my property, which means that there's 4 different rows of rebar and each row needs to be a different height. So I've got rebar, collected it all from the salvage yard. I've got 4 different piles here that I've sorted. I needed 16 of each because there's going to be 4 bits of rebar, long bits with feet sticking up in each hole. That's basically what I'm doing today. I'm going to be doing the long tall bits of rebar that stand. And then we can get to the squares and securing them all together later. Probably going to need some boots. I was a little too excited. Okay, so I need to set up like a workstation to do my cutting. And I definitely want that to be on the fire break more. You might have to move, my love. I'm going to cut some rebar. I don't like where the sparks are going. So I've actually never cut rebar before, and I only started using an angle grinder a month ago because I needed to cut oil drums, and I was really scared to use it at the beginning. I found a better spot, silly me. I've got these tiny house trailers here that I'm going to build tiny houses on, and so what a perfect spot to do my cutting. Let's try out my new cutting station. Hopefully I don't get sparks on you. Success! That is way better and I found a good angle now. So I've worked out the trick to do it faster. So I guess it's not really much of a trick. It's literally just using my left hand. If I stand on this side, use my left hand, and the sparks go this way and don't get me at all, and I can see where they're going and I can see the cut better.
So the rebar that I'm using is Y16 Rio, which means that it's 16 millimeters, and that's what was specified in my plans. I picked up this rebar from a salvage yard. It was really good quality and I got it for a great price. If you've watched the other parts in my foundation series, you'll know that I was quoted 60,000 Australian dollars to have my foundations built, which is why I chose to do it myself. And going to salvage yards is one of the ways that I'm saving money, but there's also a few other tricks that I'll show in this video, like how I'm doing the bending of the rebar.
I thought I had one more to go. I must have just cut them all. Anyway, so I've now cut all the 175s and 155s and I've got one 140. So about halfway through the cutting. New charge battery. Back into it, halfway through.
So I I have a ridiculous amount of Rio to cut for my foundations. Just for the Rio columns alone, there's 152 squares and then 64 long pieces for the feet. And then for the Rio grids, there's 96 pieces.
Okay, so I've done it. I've cut all the 4 rebar towers, all the long bits for each pile, each row, and I've got them right here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and now I'm going to do the squares. So I need to measure out all the squares that need to go around the long pieces, and I'm gonna hopefully cut them to size today as well.
I'm just measuring up the rebar pieces that I'll then be cutting to make the rebar squares or ties, I think the correct name is. These will then be tie-wired onto the vertical rebar pieces that I just cut to make the Rio columns that will go inside of my footings. I'm going to show you this rebar hack that I use that saved me so much money on a rebar bender or paying someone to bend it for me.
Just to bend the rebar, we have to put it into this hollow steel pole first, so that some of it's in there and the rest we're going to put in between the 2 bolts and bend it where the pole sits. Oh yeah. There we go. So I have to measure it out because I might have actually gone a little bit too far. We want it to be a square, like a square corner here. Actually, I do think I've gone a bit too far on that one. All right. So I'm going to check that in the square. I should have a little foot. So this has a little ledge here, which I can line up with. So see, like that. I think I just need to go the tiniest bit more and I should be good. That's perfect.
I have to bend 96 pieces of vertical standing rebar to give little feet to.
Okay, so I finished my first row of long rebar. So these are all the rebar bits for the long standing bits with feet that are going to be the rebar towers in the first row, sorry. And have some lunch and we'll do the other 3 piles that I've got. Where have you been? It's plum season, which always reminds me of my grandma, because she used to keep rows of plums in the side of her fridge where all the eggs were meant to go. She loved her plums.
So I need to bend 80 more pieces before I can knock off for the day.
Today's all about the rebar. So I'm in the process of setting up a little rebar station. Basically what I need to do is I've got all my long vertical pieces for my footings right here of rebar. I did miss one, so I need to get another one, whoops. But basically I've bent them all, made all the feet. Now I've cut most of the bits of rebar for the squares, but I do need 19 more, I think it is. So I need to cut those today, and I'm hoping that, because I've got these pieces here that were kind of already, I don't know if you can see, they're kind of like already bent, and so I'm hoping I can make it so the bends are in the right spot already, and then I can just cut off any excess and use those so they don't go to waste. But I also need, I remembered the grids, so I need rebar in the footing pads as well. So I need to make little like grid type things out of them that's going to go into the footing pads. So we need to, holy shit, ow, I just stepped on the sharpest stick, it went right into my foot. Anyway, so we're going to cut all those today, and then the grids should actually be quite easy to make. So I reckon I'll be able to tie wire those together quite quickly, along with the little rebar towers when I've made all the squares as well. I do have some squares already made up, so I might make a few of those today as well and see how they go.
I'm just using measuring tape and masking tape to mark out where I need to bend each piece of rebar to make the ties for the columns.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I was so close. Damn, so I needed 19 or 18 more squares for, yeah, my rebar towers, and I was hoping to get enough out of those pieces but I think I've only got 11 out of those, so I still need another 8 or 7, I'm not sure. So I do have a few other longer pieces, but I was hoping to save them all for the shed pad. I mean, I think some of them are actually bent a little bit anyway, so I'll go check out which ones are, and then hopefully can use them for the last few pieces. Okay, so I'm very confused. I think I need to do some serious recounting. I've just gone down to where I cut all the bits before for the rebar squares, and I think I had way more than I thought I had. So now I think I actually have more than I need, which is bad because I'm trying to save this rebar. I feel like this is not going to pull anymore. Oh, maybe a little bit. That's probably enough. I've not thought this through. Okay, so I've transported all the bits that I have cut already for the rebar squares. I need 152. I put them in piles of 5, and there's 3 left over. So it's definitely not the right amount, but let's just count them and work out how many we have. 40, 45, 50. Oh, no way. I'm just 1 over. That's bloody brilliant. Make a few grids. So basically they're going to be made of 6 pieces that cross over like this. I've never done this before. This one's go on the top, and then we just connect them with tie wire. So I've only just watched a video on how to do this, so I hope I get it right. Cut a bit off. So we are going to get our wire, and we're gonna put a little kink in it and have a long section and a short section. We're gonna pop it under our bottom wire, and then we're gonna bring this long guy over like that, and then under this guy, bring it up like this, and then we're going to twist twice. We're going to twist it and crimp it. So here's my first grid. I'm pretty happy with it. So that's going to go in my footing pad on little rebar chairs.
I realised it was probably smarter to finish the rest of the rebar grids on the site, so I did that the next day. I moved on to making the ties that will be connected to my vertical pieces with feet to create my rebar columns. I have 152 of these squares to make.
It's 3:15 and I've only just got halfway done now, which is insane. It's taking me forever, but it's a lot to bend. So I've got the first 2 piles. So I still need 2 more rows, and these rows have 1 more each in one of the rows and 2 more each in the other row, so it's going to be hard.
I've currently made over 100 rebar ties, so I'm starting to get the hang of it.
So I finished the tower, and now how am I oh shit, Jasmine. Oh no. Oh, Jasmine. Do you guys see what I've done? don't do things like this. Wow. So my tower looks really good. I've done it on sawhorses. Tower looks good. God damn. Jasmine. It's a new day and we're back into working non-stop today because I'm really pushing to get these foundations done. So yesterday we got over 120 rebar ties done. So the squares that will be going in the rebar towers to hold the vertical dowels together. So we're going to cut, we're going to bend, and then we're going to make towers and grids, and I'm hoping to get that all done today, which is a lot. So we're going to push non-stop. So I've now got both my two piles. So this is my pile of the square ties that I need, and then over here is my pile for the grids that I'm going to need. So I'm going to leave the grid ones over here so that I can come back and make them over here, because this is where the side is, and then I'm going to take these ones over to where my bending tree is, and I will bend them up into squares, and then we can make rebar towers. I'm done, finally. So I've got, God, I don't even know how many. It's like 150, 160 rebar ties or rebar squares, whatever you want to call them. I have got all my vertical bits of rebar, the dowels, and I've got all the bits for my grid. Alright, so today is all about the rebar towers. So I'm trying to set up like a rebar tower station, I guess. Whoop. But I don't know if these will be long enough. So what I think I'll do is I'll do it one by one so that I can make sure they're even.
I need to make sure I attach the Rio ties evenly along the Rio dowels and attach each corner with tie wire using a saddle tie.
3 down, 13 to go.
I worked out it was taking me an hour to complete one tower, which meant the next couple of days I was sat in this same spot making my 16 Rio columns. And over 16 hours later, I was finally done.
I cannot tell you how excited I am to have these finished. I was literally sat right here in the same spot for almost 48 hours just doing them over and over, and then just carrying them over to here as I finish them off. So the formwork that I have to make for inside of the footing holes are basically just little squares like this. So if you've seen formwork on the outside of a concrete slab, it's basically the same thing, just a little mini version. It's just a demo that I wanted to put together to see if it would work, using like wooden stakes here in the corners, and then just using the pallet wood on the outside, and then I will also be bracing it by putting some stakes in around it to make sure none of it will move or bend or warp or anything like that. So I need to get all of this wood de-nailed.
I need 16 footing pad forms in total, and I've already made 12. I've had a lot of people ask why I need formwork inside of my holes, and honestly, it beats me. I'm just following my engineered plans that specify formwork, but I have been told it's due to the soil type.
Hello, can I help you? Would you like me to throw something? I finished denailing all my pallet wood, so I've got my 4 piles here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've actually just realized that I don't have any stakes either, so I'm gonna need to get these and cut them so that they can be the 4 corner posts. I'll get my jigsaw out.
So I couldn't find my jigsaw, so I got real lazy and used the reciprocating saw.
Okay, so I just thought I was filming that whole thing to show you, and I wasn't. But basically what I was doing is just showing you that I'm drilling 2 stakes in either side and then putting 2 bits of wood together. So that's the height of my footing pads, and these will be the 2 parallel walls for the footing pads, and then I've got the other 2 pieces that I'm just going to drill together now to make the square form.
So now that I have my 14 footing pad forms done, it's just a matter of taking them to the site and placing them next to their holes ready to go in. As well as the formwork, I'm just placing everything else I have already next to the footing holes.
I've finished laying everything out that I can. We've got some footing pads, and we've got the rebar grids, and we've got blue metal and fine sand, and then I've got, what else have I got up here? I've got my hand tamper, my T and level rebar chairs, and my foundation bolts. Go start the bracing. Sometimes I can't believe this is my life. That'll be the brace for the footings. So the footing's gonna sit in here, and this will brace it. And then these parts will sit over the holes so that it can hover. Need to drill this in, but I can't drill them in fully. I need to put it around the footing first, and then I can drill it in to secure it. It's basically what I want to make. So can you see that just there? Now I haven't done it wide enough, so I need to have it just a little bit wider, because this isn't meeting here, but it does meet over here, so it's a good size there. I just need to move it a tad bit over, and then it will go 40 centimeters up, and that'll hover it over the hole. So I spent all last night, like up till 10 p.m, making sure all these bracings were done. But we're gonna move on to doing the welding today.
For context, I have never welded before in my life, so this moment is literally my first, so I know my technique is horrible. However, this is a good way to learn, as the forms don't need to be neat. So what I'm doing is I need to make 16 footing forms by welding these 2 drums together and then cutting them to size. The reason I'm not using sonotubes is because I was quoted $18,000 without delivery. So I chose to use drums, and it worked out to be $100. I was able to get all the footings welded together before the weekend, which was my goal because it's my birthday. So I'm going to celebrate, and then next week is pour week. The first few days of the week, I'll be getting all the footings prepped so that they're ready for the pour at the end of the week. I honestly haven't been able to stop smiling for this last stage of the foundation build. I can see my progress show and everything start to come together. And knowing how much time and effort I put into the foundations is the most rewarding feeling. If you're building your own home and it's something you want to do, I definitely recommend it. It's a lot of hard work, but the knowledge and skills that you gain along the way are priceless, and the experience in itself is enough. I'll see you next week for pour day.